Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of Press F for Feelings. And today we're going to be talking about guilt and frustration. My name is Gad, and I'll be your host for today. Unfortunately, our co-hosts had some unexpected difficulties and will not be joining us for this episode. We wish them well, and we hope that they can join us for another episode in the future. To give a little bit about what we're going to be talking about today and the podcast in general, this is a podcast where we talk about how gaming connects to our emotions, our mental health, and even how we treat others. Games are more than just a source of entertainment. They are experiences that provide us a wide range of emotions, from laughter to rage, and sometimes they even help us heal. And going off of that, again, today we're going to be talking about things that all of us as gamers have in common, right? And people in general, not just gamers, but people in general, and it's guilt and frustration. Two very what seem to be or coined as a lot of the time as negative emotions, or very aggressive emotions, or very something that's easy to be displayed in a bad light, poorly, or in a way that makes us not as receptive to other people's feelings, or it's one of those easier emotions to lash out. And when it comes to, like, we talk about processing emotions, the emotions come in, we process it, we don't lash out, and then the emotions leave. And it's an important distinction to know, that you can have, it's easy to see when negative emotions lash out, like sadness, like I'm going to say negative, but they're not really negative. There's no such thing as a negative emotion. It's just emotions, and how we perceive them, and how we either process or lash out those emotions. That's what makes it positive or negative. All emotions are human, and they're okay to have. Sometimes it sucks having some of those emotions, but they're, it's part of being human. It's what makes us tick. It's what makes us, grab onto to whatever we need to. So we when we talk about, like, negative emotions, so to say, they or emotions that are associated with negativity, I'll probably say that instead. It's more of like sadness, depression, anger, rage. The more, a lot of those emotions that aren't usually let out in a healthy way. So that's why we associate them, like, with a lot of trauma and all that kind of stuff. But there are healthy ways of processing that, and there are also unhealthy ways, and you can also lash out to, like, positive emotions, right? You can lash out joy, you can lash out happiness, you can lash out whatever, right? It's any emotion that you experience, you can process it, or you can lash it out. And it's just kind of like, well, how do you lash out joy and something like that? And it's things that you normally don't think about as like something that you can lash out, but you can most definitely lash out joy in like, for example, in the form of gloating, or in the form of like you being extremely happy that you kind of don't read the room of what's going on, and then you, like, share your happiness at an inappropriate time. And that's, again, it's not like a bad, like, it's not a bad thing, but it's you're not learning how to process it, and you're just regurgitating that feeling so that others can know how you feel. And again, it really depends. Like, there's a lot of nuances and stuff like that, but we're not going to go into all those details. Today, again, our topics are going to be guilt and frustration. And just how we started the last segment, we're going to start with definitions, then we're going to go into some questions for y'all. And these definitions are going to be like how we relate to them as well, and how we relate to them in gaming. And as you can see, we have Pokemon Colosseum in the background, a game that has most definitely made me rage a few times. in the past before. We actually just finished doing a 36-hour stream, and there was definitely some annoyance that was going in while playing those games. I love the Super Nintendo system, and we would play 36 hours of Super Nintendo games, and yeah, there's definitely a lot of moments where those games made me upset in a funny way. Because I'm not really upset at the games. Yeah, exactly, like those emotes right there. I'm not really upset at those games. I love those games. I love playing them. I love enjoying them. I love experiencing them. And yeah, today we're going to be talking about tilt and frustration. So let's get the first word on the screen. Let's see. The first word for today is going to be tilt. And the reason why it's like this is because this is where the co-host used to be. So this usually gets covered up and more formatted, but today it's not. So today we're going to be talking about a few words, and the first word is tilt. And tilt means emotional frustration that affects your decision making or performance. And you see this a lot of the time, right? Going over what tilt is. Roll with the punches, yeah. But you see tilt a lot. A lot of us have experienced tilt in one way or another, especially in gaming, where we just get so frustrated, so fed up, so done with it all, that we start to like actively start throwing. Either intentional feeding or just ulting in spawn, or, you know, you're just like, oh fuck, I don't care if we win or lose, and you just, you know, you just let that anger, let that rage, let that emotion consume you as you just continue to not only, you know, play the game, and sometimes it's you're trying to play better, right? But you're so upset, you're so emotionally frustrated that you start making more and more mistakes. You start doing things that you normally wouldn't do, and you start questioning, like, why am I doing this? How did I get here? Like, can this game be over? Can this match be over? You know, you toss the controller, you do whatever, you release that anger, you release that frustration in a way that's not healthy. And of course, you know, I've built it many times. I used to be a League of Legends player, and that game made me tilt very much. There's a lot of times where I expected my team to be playing at a hold on, sorry. Sorry about that. Dog saw somebody out the window. Hey, come on. Come back. Yeah, I know. You're doing your job. You're doing such a good job. Yeah. Come. Anyways. Toss the controller. Way too expensive to be doing that. They are? Yeah, they are. They really are. And you know, I personally couldn't be able to toss the controller, and well, I had a little bit of carpet. You know, we had carpet, so like we could toss the controller some, but not like, you know, like smash it, like toss it against a wall or something, a hard surface. It's more of just like, you know, you get upset and you just like, you drop it with style, you know, you just like, yeah, don't spike it. It's just boom, and then it bounces off the carpet, and it, you know, the controller is okay most of the time. But yeah, I used to play a lot of League of Legends, and like I was saying, it was a lot of having high expectations for my teammates and expecting them to play the game the way that I wanted the game to be played. and expecting them to have my back, always have my back, and be there to support me. And essentially, I was the main focus of the group. I was the star of the group, and if people didn't have my back, then they were playing the game wrong. And you see that in a lot of competitive games. You see that in Overwatch. You see that in Rivals. You see that in League of Legends. You see that in a lot of games that have that multiplayer aspect. Dead by Daylight is one of those games as well, in which you see Dead by Daylight is a weird game in which one person plays as a killer and the other people are 4 survivors, and the survivors have to do generators, like work on generators and repair them, and then to be able to open the gate, and the killer is supposed to kill them. And that's all, like, that's the basic premise of the game. And as far as rules go, there's not really any more rules to that. The game is kind of like the killers have all the choice and have all the power to play however they want, and so do the survivors are just kind of living in it and trying to escape. Right? They're at the mercy of the killer, and although you can be a good survivor and like, just shatter the ankles of killers because your skill is there, ultimately you are at the whims of the killer and how the killer plays. And it's a very good case study on people with power and control, and it would be very interesting to have more people talk about their Dead by Daylight's experience. But yeah, that's also one of those games that just provides a lot of tilt, because you don't get to you don't have that say in how the match goes, right? And it goes into that team play of, well, are they playing to win? Are they playing to have fun? How are they trying to process the game that they're playing? And again, with like Overwatch or other team games, it's like that, right? It's how they're playing the game and how people want to play the game versus how people want to learn how to play the game together as a group. And for games like Overwatch and where you have randoms every match, right? It's hard. It's difficult to form a team. It's difficult to even if you're grouped, right? It's difficult to get that synergy. It's difficult to have that synergy with your team, because everybody has so many different play styles. And I think one of the things that one of the issues that we see with like online gaming versus like games that we play in person, like basketball or football or golf or whatever. And I know golf is more of a single person activity, but you still have a team, right? You still have like your team, not necessarily like a team that you're on, whether you just be the solo person on your team or whatnot. But you do have a coach, you do have maybe you're your own coach or whatever. There are things that you go into with golfing as well. But yeah, with real life, those sports, right? You have a consistent team. You have that consistency. You have that ability to learn with your other players, with the rest of your teammates, to grow together and to synergize and all that stuff. And when we play online, it's not really so much the case, right? Even with playing as a group of people, you don't have that time to dedicate to learn how to, one, improve your own skills, and then to like want to improve as a team, because you can have a lot of different people who are good at the game and not synergize at all, and then your team is not that good. It's not going to do that good. You're not going to perform very well because y'all don't have each other's back. And that comes with a lot of it comes with not only playing together, because again, like I said, when you just play together, you're not really like, you're just doing the activity. You're not learning from it. You can learn some things from it, but you're not really like taking a step back to spectate, to get a different vantage point or a different angle of like, why was my teammate there? Or why was I here? When and then you rewatch the videos of like how you played and all that stuff, and you're like, oh, well, they were out of position, or I was out of position, or we were too passive, or we needed to be more aggressive here and we weren't there. that synergy wasn't there, right? And that causes tilt. That causes frustration because now you don't have people who are playing the game to how you think is the most optimal or most enjoyable way, depending on how you want to play. If you're going for wins or if you're going for or if you're just going for fun, right? Or the worst offender of all, play the damn objective. Yeah, that's it too, right? Who, like, there are some people who don't want to play the objective, and there's some people who want to just rack up kills and things like that. You know, they want to buff up their player stats because big numbers make people happy, and you don't, like, the player stats don't really capture a whole lot of the nuances that go behind the game, right? Why does this player have such a bad score, right, comparatively to others? You know, there were a lot of games in Overwatch where I don't get it. Like, I play support, and like, I don't get a lot of healing or a lot of damage, and comparatively my stats look lower than the rest of the teams, right? Because it's just like the stats are lower. But if you look at the videos and you see what's happening, you notice that some of those plays are key points into like winning battles and stuff like that. So it's not like, and this is why I try to say that stats are nice, but they're not everything, because they don't tell the full story. You'd have to literally watch the whole video and to like analyze everything that's going on to be able to understand why somebody's stats are the way they are. And you know, it's easy in online games to go ahead and just say, oh, it's the random's fault, right? And it's become a running joke at this point, where if you're playing in a team, it's always the random's fault, even if your team is the one that's doing bad and the random is carrying, right? And of course, you wouldn't blame the random to their face. It's more of like a joke, and you know, you just kind of run with it to make sure that, you know, you don't put the blame on your team, right? So it's one of those to avoid the tilt, like putting the tilt on your team, and it's you don't tell the random that they're being bad, even though they may or may not be, because again, it's just a game, and who knows what's going on in their end. They could be trying to learn somebody new. They could be doing the best that they can, and they got put into a game that they weren't supposed to be. You know, they're trying their hardest in one way or another. And who am I to take out my insecurities, my frustrations, to lash out this tilt at this person who's just trying to play a game? You know, this isn't, and even when you play like competitive and have a lot of those moments in competitive matches where, again, you feel like you are the star, you feel like that you know what's best, and you know, you try to do your best, and when your team just isn't there, that's frustrating, right? It's tilting. It's man, this is making me so mad that we have one person just running in, dying over and over again. So why should I care about the rest of this game? Because they're not playing how I see fit, or how I would play, and it's causing us to lose. Grr. Random carrying the team and playing objective. Me, bro, this guy is ass. Yeah, and again, that also goes into it too, right? Because if you have one person playing the objective and everybody is up front, right, then that one person is going to be behind, and they're not going to be contributing to the team, right? Because they're playing the objective and they're winning the objective for y'all, and while everybody else is forward. And so when, you know, you compare stats, and it's like, oh man, this guy, what is this guy doing? Why is it, like, you know, he's ass. He's not doing anything constructive for the team. And it turns out that they're the ones that are doing the right thing, right? And the rest of the team is just kind of doing their own thing. But yeah, tilting is definitely something that makes us not think clearly, and it makes us, again, commit choices that, you know, we're already frustrated, and what we want to try and do our, it's accurate, yeah, and what we try to just learn, and like, when we get tilted, we have to learn how to understand that the games that we're put in isn't a reflection of us as a player. It's not even a reflection of our skill, because it's more of a reflection of how fast can this group come together and synergize so that we could win the objective, we could win the match, whatever, right? And it's a lot of testing of which groups go together, which groups play well together, which groups are wanting to go that extra mile to understand each other instead of tilting and being frustrating at each other. And that's very hard to do in an online game when first of all you got 5 other people who don't communicate with each other, right? Because most of the time the communication is toxic, so people just turn it off. They don't really bother going to team chats because everybody is hating on each other for playing the game. and it's like, you know, just how are you supposed to synergize when people have so many different play styles and you have to do it in like 5 minutes or 10 minutes or however long the match is? Then it's really difficult to gauge that. And even as, you know, I'm somebody who likes to synergize with people and would actively go out of my way to change the way that I would normally play to fit the team dynamic. And sometimes you just can't. Sometimes there's some groups that just can't because somebody doesn't want to play along with the rest of the group. Somebody wants to do their own thing, and again, it could work out and you guys could win, right? But it goes into like, again, it goes into they're not playing how I'm expecting them to play, so therefore they're ruining the game experience for me and maybe other people that are there. Yeah, you're having to play objectives sometimes and the team just goes ahead. Yeah. Now why I'm playing the game? No, I get that. Yeah. I get that. So yeah, when it comes to tilts, like we all do it. It's you know, it's something that's easily, like not easily, like sometimes some games are more, you know, there are healthy ways and unhealthy ways of handling this tilt. And there's definitely, lashing out is definitely not a healthy way of doing it. Making people feel bad about playing a game just because, you know, how the way they play it, whether they know as much as you do or not, is not, you know, it's not constructive to anybody, and it makes people not want to play those games anymore. Go figure, you being mean, other people don't want to play that game. And then it's just like, well, okay, I don't care if this other person plays, right? And then you get to so many people, right? You just, more and more people stop playing, and then nobody, like, your game dies because nobody wants to play a game with that much toxicity or like, you know, they don't want to handle the amount of tilt that they get to experience, like the lashed out tilt, right? And nobody deserves to have to put up with so much bullshit from a video game, right? It's just, nobody should, but we do, and we tolerate it, and some games actually embrace it and promote it. So don't be one of those people that goes for the tilts. Try and learn. Try and learn. I mean, we all tilt, and it's okay to tilt. Just learn how to process your tilt instead of lashing it out, because at the end of the day, nobody wants to have to play the game and then have to deal with somebody else's emotions as you know, you just want to play the game, you know. Let's go on to our next word, and it's triggers. Things that consistently set off negative emotions. All right, and this also goes into, this is like, if we were to relate this to gaming, right? This is like learning patterns. This is like learning enemy patterns. When I was playing Sunset Riders yesterday, I was getting tilted. I was the triggers for that game that were setting me off was pretty much me not understanding how the game worked, and then I would you know, get upset that, like, oh, sore winners, if you beat me in a game. Yeah, sore winners are the worst. Sore winners say so much about a person's personality. they say so much about how much that person needs to learn and grow. And it should, like, being a sore winner is the biggest red flag for me of this person needs to definitely grow up and not be playing a video game. They need to learn how to manage who they are as a person, not just emotions, because being a sore winner is like, it's the ultimate, or not ultimate, it's just really bad to be a sore winner, because then it's no longer about the game, it's about having control, having power, and when you have that lack of control and power, you go and try to justify it in other means, and then you're not playing the game to play the game, you're playing the game to dominate people, and that's not a healthy way to play video games. Like, you shouldn't be playing a game to dominate people, you should be playing a game to have fun and to win and to, like, do your best, and like, just because you are good, again, you know, and it goes into like these team dynamics of they may not even be that good, but their team is good, and then they start shit talking at the end to try and get some sort of comment, or like, you know, rile up your opponent. And again, it's all about how they lash out their emotions of being inadequate in real life. So inadequate that they have to take the gaming to be able to make up and give themselves that feel good of that, while trying to, you know, again, live life. The only place you want people dominating you is in bed. Here's one. If you want me to try a fighting game, we played it together. Don't go try hard and literally whoop my ass from jump before I even, yeah, that too, right? Again, it goes into wanting to learn how to play the game and like get to know each other, and that's a trigger of itself, right? It's a pattern that we have as people, in which sets us off, and it's just like, well, I mean, you're trying to get me to play with you on multiple occasions, right? You want me to get interested in this game, you want me to get invested in this game. Just give me some grace, give me some time to get into it, you know, give me some time, you know, I'm starting off brand new, you're starting off with a lot of experience, maybe we can meet some sort of middle ground. You don't have to hold my hand, sure, like, I expect to get my ass beat, but just don't like kick my ass to the point where I never want to play the game with you again, because again, that goes into just you want to have opponents, right? You want to try and build your opponent so that you have a good quality fight, and not just, because then it just turns into another dominating thing, right? It turns into, I want somebody to play this game with me, but I really enjoy kicking their ass right now. And you know, there is I will say there is like a certain, I'm not gonna say fun, but there is a certain aspect that some people get off of it, some sort of emotion, some sort of feeling that people get whenever it does come to just that dominating, right? And again, it doesn't come to gaming at that point, it comes into what it says about the personal person. It's cool that content warnings and trigger warnings are starting to become more commonplace in games. Yeah, I agree. I really enjoy that. There's definitely see, I'll have to remember staying at hell. There's definitely something that comes with gaming and more having a more inclusive space that helps people in general have the proper respect for others, right? There's definitely a line of wanting to have more people have that safe space so that they can enjoy your product, so that they can enjoy the services that you provide. And you know, when it comes to communities and stuff like that, that's difficult because people are going to be people. But when it comes to gaming, you can set the rules because you make the rules and it's your game, right? Everything is up to you and about you. And but yeah, I really appreciate that the more are putting labels and being more accessible, like having more accessible options to those who have phobias, to those who have triggers, to those who you know have real life issues that you know they may not expect in a game, and you know, we just it's nice. It is really nice, and it's I'm glad to be able to see more games do that and provide, you know, if it's not, maybe it's something that, you know, be like, hey, I heard this has this kind of moment in it. Let's look up to see what exactly it is, to see if it's something that you can handle. And that definitely is something that's nice. But yeah, triggers, things that consistently set off negative emotions. It's I have a lot of triggers myself. Those triggers come more from who I play games with as opposed to the games themselves. And you know, I was saying, like Sunset Riders, I was being, you know, that was triggering frustration for me, right? That was a game that was triggering frustration for me because I didn't quite understand the patterns, I didn't quite understand the rule set of the game, and I was just going in and just dying constantly, right? And it was a difficult game, don't get me wrong, but it's definitely one of those that's just, once you learn the patterns, once you learn how to understand what those patterns are, and how to navigate those patterns, right? That's when you start doing better. That's when you start realizing, okay, what I was doing before did not work at all, and you go for like, you start recognizing what those patterns are. It's like, okay, every time I made it to this guy, I just kept on running in, shooting, and dying. And now it's like, okay, let me observe him. Let me take a moment to see what he's doing. Let me process what's happening in the game, and or in real life, and just think about what's happening before I make any actions. And again, you know, this is something that's more of like, certain triggers you can control like that, and other triggers are just kind of like, they're there, and they're things that you try to either stay away from until you can navigate those feelings again, or you know, you come back to it, and you just take a moment to think, hey, you know, I know this is going to trigger me in some way. I know that I can probably push through it, and I'm here to try and experience this piece of media, this piece of art, while navigating something that might be very emotional, very personal to me. And yeah, it's definitely nice to see that more people are adding those warnings. But welcome back from the ad break, everybody. But yeah, the most of my triggers don't come from video games, because even though, like, I get you see me when I'm playing those old Super Nintendo games, or you know, whatever game I'm playing, and you know, I get like frustrated, I get annoyed, and it all comes from a place of good fun, because that was like, those games mean something to me, and they're not always fair, but they do mean something to me, and so, like, most of my triggers come from people and how people interact with each other. It's not so much that I care about winning or losing, because the game is just a game, and a match is a match, and you're gonna have good matches, and you're gonna have bad matches, and you're gonna have all sorts of kinds of matches. You know, those, it's just how the game works. My triggers come from bullying. My triggers come from people who are sore winners, who bully the other person into losing, or who bully somebody because they're not good at the game. And it's just like, stop. We can call it whatever we want, right? There's you know, nowadays people call it toxic, and being, you know, like the toxicity around it, but I feel like that takes away some of the meaning and some of the impact of bullying. And it's just kind of like, because again, there are some games, there's some places that see toxicity and they're more tolerant of it, right? Because it's the internet, it's you know, it's, you can't control everybody, right? And it's not about control, it's about providing that safe space, providing that place for people to experience the game in a comfortable dynamic. And we label a lot of things under toxicity, but toxicity is a huge branch, right? It's just like saying I'm good with computers, right? Or I'm good at math, or I'm good at social studies. Like, those are very, very broad topics that include so many different ideas and logistical patterns and flow and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, when we coin something under toxicity, it's can be detrimental to how we learn and how we grow, because then we just label, oh, that's just being toxic. And it's, instead of getting to the root of it, it's like, well, actually they're bullying somebody right now, right? You wouldn't, like, if this were a real life situation where you have somebody, a friend, or somebody who's bullying a friend, right? You would want to stand up, right? Or you would want to try and say something. I know not everybody's confrontational, and, like, don't feel bad if you're not able to stand up to bullies, because that's okay. But me personally, I was bullied as a kid, and I was bullied by my peers, and I was made fun of them a lot, and I accepted a lot of it. And it wasn't until I started, like, trying to understand where my bullies were coming from, and trying to be understanding of their life, their different lives, and like trying to not take that bullying efforts from them, like putting down my own foot so that I wouldn't get bullied anymore by them. And so now I stand up to bullies. And now every time I see somebody who is bullying another person online, I will say something to her. I'll report their account. I'll stand up for the person being bullied. It doesn't matter. I don't like bullying. And again, it's one of those things that triggers me, because it's something that I've experienced in the past. So when we talk about toxicity in online gaming, it's more of like, are they being a bully? And we all know what it means to be a bully. And it's like, if they are being a bully, then it's something that we shouldn't tolerate. It's something that we shouldn't stand up. It's something that we should speak up about, because it's definitely something that is important to not only me, but so many people out there, because nobody likes being bullied. So when we talk about gaming and toxicity and triggers and stuff like that, it's more about personalities and people who go in and are bullies. There's people who are sore winners. They're also bullies. People who have issues of control and who want the game to, like I said, revolve around them and stuff like that. Those are all triggers for me, because it's not it's a meaning of who is playing the game, who I'm playing the game with, and there's some very, very disturbed people out there who don't quite understand what they're doing is wrong. And they don't quite understand the tools that are available for them to help process their daily emotions, right? From their environmental depression to like what's going on in their personal life, right? The environment that we live in as people surely has an effect on who we are as gamers. What's going on, Nix? Even if I'm mad at my teammates, I only complain to my friends, unless that teammate was being rude prior. Then I might lay into them a bit. Yeah, and again, that's bullying, right? You can express yourself without being a bully. You can express your frustration, your anger, your whatever, right? You can express your triggers in a positive way. Instead of lashing out at the person who you have an issue with, you can talk to your friends about, this goes back to blaming the random, always blaming the random, right? You can express yourself without being mean or negative to the person that is maybe having the issue or may be the issue. Again, if somebody else is being rude or a bully, that's just standing up for yourself, right? You gotta stand up for yourself. You're the CEO of blaming the random. Try to be kind in general to everyone. Lately, Siege gamers have been kind. Hey, that's nice. That's good to hear. But yeah, no, there is a difference between standing up for yourself and like knowing your worth, knowing your boundaries, and you know, processing those triggers in a way that doesn't release them, that doesn't lash out into other people. Me experiencing any convenience in life. Also me, the randoms. Never thought you'd see the word siege and kind in the same sentence. I've been playing a little bit more recently with Nyx and a few of other friends, and it's been kind of fun. Of course, I've been dying like instantly, but there have been some plays that I get that I'm just like, hell yeah, that was pretty cool. But again, you know, like even when I play with Nyx and her friends, and you know they're my friends too, but I associate them with Nyx because they're more Nyx's friends. I will say that there's more of a tie there. I know my connection level. I understand it. I get it. But they're, you know, they're my friends as well, and it's just I'm not good at the game, and they're already understanding of that, and they're already like, well, we wanted you to play with us, so we don't like, it doesn't matter how good or bad you are. It's just as long as, you know, the vibes, right? You want the vibes to be immaculate. You want the good times to keep rolling, and a lot of that is just understanding what those triggers are, what's going to trigger you. Right? If you have a group of people and you know one of them is not going to be, you know, new user friendly, then it's going to be a bad time, right? You're going to have that person's going to get triggered and they're going to get set off, and it's just like, well, don't get triggered, right? And it's just like, well, it doesn't work like that. You can't just not get triggered, because once you're triggered, you got to figure out a way to calm down. You much rather have a fun friend than a competitive sweaty friend? I agree. I'd rather much have fun friends and competitive or always needing to win or being bullies or any of that. And again, there's a difference between competitive shit talking versus bullying and like being like, whenever it comes to being toxic, right? Because again, competitive shit talking falls under toxicity, but it falls under toxicity within bounds and rule sets. You don't attack the player, you don't attack, you know, you're able to separate the game from the player itself. And that's something that's important. How many times have you... Okay, we don't talk about that. I know my role. Alright? I know what I have to do. Never intentionally. Alright, bud. I'll see you in the courts. But yeah, so triggers, definitely, there's something that form. Again, going off of the negative emotions of because emotions are just emotions, and you know, we give power to those emotions through our perspectives. So like, there's nothing wrong with being angry, there's nothing wrong with being tilted, there's nothing wrong with frustration. It's just a matter of or jealousy or anything like that. It's just a matter of how we process those emotions versus how we lash out and how we make our our feelings other people's problems. And so, like, you know, the triggers is, there's a lot of things that are in gaming that could cause it as well, like some story elements and stuff like that. And again, it's like Jiggly Jello said, it's wonderful that more games are including those kind of trigger warnings to let other people know that, hey, this might not be suitable for you if you're still suffering from something that could trigger you like this. And when I ask someone to play a game with me, I truly don't care how bad they play in that sense, and it won't bother me. The only way it affects me is that you get concerned that they aren't enjoying it. That's generally why I ask them to play, because I want them to have fun playing the games. Yeah, that's understandable. You want them to see the game and appreciate it like you do. And you know, it's nice that you want them to have as much fun as you are, or maybe not as much, but like to a certain degree, that you know, you want them to see the game and to grow with the game, right? You want to grow with them and the game that you're playing together. I get that, you know, I'm like that too. Like I will try to make sure that all my friends are having a fun time playing, including myself, and like And like if they aren't enjoying it, sometimes I'll like if I feel like they may not be enjoying it, I'll ask them. If they're not, I'd be like, hey, what can we do to help you try to enjoy it? You only get triggered if you died multiple times in a row to things that are especially annoying or bullshit. And you always feel so cringe afterwards. Like I'll swear and be mad for 30 seconds and then get over it, but I still feel weird about it. Yeah, that's fair, right? That's a trigger, right? And it goes into like how when we're gonna have a section later about tips and tricks on how to manage all this stuff, manage our emotions. And again, that's something that again is a very valid feeling to have. It's very valid to get tilted. It's normal to get tilted. It's just one of those things that it's learning how to manage it versus just letting it just release and then just unleashing that frustration or anger or whatever may be causing your tilt, right? And well, we have a little bit of different ways and tips and tricks to help manage with that later. We'll go over them. But yeah, no, definitely it does get frustrating, right? Even when I play Overwatch and stuff like that. I'll definitely there would be times where it's just like, man, I keep doing the same exact thing and dying for it, right? I extend a little too much, I take a step too far out, and it's the same dude that's just killing me over and over and over again and capitalizing on why like me making a mistake, the same mistake constantly. And it's just like, oh, why am I making the same mistake? And then the trigger, like the triggers come into to turn into tilts, and you're just like, oh, I'm making the same mistakes, and then you just can't recover because you've already lost the mental battle. You've already lost your cool, and you're just frustrated at the whole thing that's going on. You also think it depends on the game. I enjoyed Halo with friends. Mario Party was something else. Mario Party is something else. Mario Party, it's one of those I used to play with my sister a lot, and we would always do teams versus the AI. And when we played against friends and stuff like that, I'm not gonna say I never raged in Mario Party, because that'd be a lie. But I think I played more Mario Party as like cooperative, or maybe trying to work with friends, and like I don't think the first Mario Party had teams. I'm not sure, but the other ones did. And I would definitely try to do the cooperative stuff a lot more than the other aspects of it, the ones that pitted us against each other. And it would be more understanding of okay, well, I don't like, I want to win, but like it's okay if I don't win every mini game. But it definitely is one of those feelings that's very rage inducing. Mario Party for sure. Yeah. Fog starts giggling when I see Muffin hit fire, unleashing its entire mag into somebody. That was hilarious. I can't believe that that guy was just sticking to the fuse with Muffin just firing everywhere and missing all the shots. That was hilarious. When you were a little baby, you bite the corner of your DS, like when you got pissed off. Aw. Things we do, right? I used to be a controller tosser, like not like but just like like a drop it controller dropper. Truly feral child. I don't much get tilted anymore. I think that's mostly because I don't play competitive games much anymore. I have performance anxiety, I guess, when it comes to team-based PvP, because I worry I'm not doing enough for my team. Yeah, that's fair. I understand that. And again, it goes into like those triggers, right? That would be a trigger to and that's like you staying away so that that you don't have to deal with that kind of frustration. And that is a way of handling it, right? That is a way of going about it, just not doing it anymore because it doesn't bring you that joy, or it might not bring you joy, or it might bring you anxiety, right? And in in a place where like you could have these competitive games, online games or team-based games, and like, you know, you wouldn't have to have or experience people being bullies or like getting onto you that you're not performing enough and stuff like that, then, you know, it would probably feel a lot different. But unfortunately, people are people, and people do not know how to, you know, process their emotions. People don't know how to take accountability for their actions, and what that will always lead to conflict, because it's a lot easier to just avoid something than it is to confront it. And especially when it comes to feelings and like and emotions. Now again, you know, is it always bad to avoid something? No, it's not, right? Because you can avoid things that are, and it could be healthy, and you don't even need that kind of pressure in your life, right? And so it's just like you avoid it, and it's just like, hey, that's it, it's done, it's gone. I don't even have to worry about it anymore because they're not my thing anymore. And again, you know, we all grow and we all change, and we all have different experiences. We'll all have positive moments, we'll have negative moments, we'll have things that change who we are as a person. We'll have life experiences that'll just, life will happen, and you'll just be like, well, damn, you know, so much shit is going on in the world right now. Being mad at a video game is like the lowest of the low of the totem poles of things to get upset about and everything that's going on in the world, right? So like, I get it, you know, it's like I used to tilt a lot. I used to have a lot of triggers in online gaming, especially when like I was really worried about what other people thought about me and my gameplay, and like the expectations I put on other people as well as the expectations people put on me. And like when I put it into perspective of like everything that's going on in the world and my life, gaming's at the very bottom. And so like that doesn't like to me, it's like I'm not gonna get triggered anymore by online gaming or like things that I know that I'm just gonna play the game, and I know that the people who I'm playing with, they don't know the game as well. They know some stuff just like I do, but they don't know like everything that needs to be known about the game. So again, like when I look for improving on online games and where I can, and you know, positioning and accuracy and all that stuff, I typically do VOD reviews and stuff like that, because that's gonna help me more than what somebody's gonna say in an online match, who doesn't even know anything about me or how I play, and just knows that we don't have that that synergy, right? Because we don't play the game the same way, we don't view the game the same way, and either they want to be the hero and be the one that always has that support by them, or whatnot. Maybe they saw a video and it's like, this is how you're supposed to play the game, and then they're like, oh, okay, and they're winning a lot, and then it doesn't work anymore, and then they're frustrated that it doesn't work anymore, and it's just like, well, why is it not working anymore? It's like, well, the game changes as you get more, as you learn more, and as you climb up. Like, people are going to be more, you know, there's a lot more things to learn, there's a lot more nuances to the game, there's always a lot more to a game than what is explained as like the like what most people on social media and stuff like that display. Because there's games are complex, team dynamics are complex, and there's definitely a lot of you know, a lot of triggers that go into all that gaming. Let's move on to the next word, and it's emotional regulation. The ability to calm yourself down when emotions get intense. All right, now this is a tough one, right? This is when you do start getting frustrated, when you do start getting angry or upset or annoyed or tilted. It's how do you calm down, right? This is so that, you know, everybody, you know, builds up this pressure, this upsetness, this whatever is annoying them, this tilt, and this is how do you manage that so that you don't hit the top, you don't hit 100% and then you just explode, right? Because we never want to just explode our emotions at people. We want to be able to share them. Emotional regulation is something I've been excelling at. Proud of myself for it. My 20s taught me a lot about this. Hey, that's good. I'm glad. This is something that a lot of people don't make it to this step. A lot of people don't make it to this step right here because they feel a lot of the other emotions like being triggered and stuff like that, and then they unleash it, right? And instead of processing it and learning how to regulate it, they just boom, they just explode. They just hit 100%. They're done with it all. Fuck you, fuck life, fuck everything. I'm out. And just, you know, they have a tantrum, right? They express themselves in this very, very heated way, or this very, like, you know, extreme way. We don't only see this with tilts. We see this with all emotions, right? You can be, you know, depressed. You can be sad. You can be jealous. You can be happy. You can have a lot of joy, and you know, you can be content, and all of that stuff has to, like, when we say emotional regulation, when you're happy and stuff like that, right? It's learning that, you know, you can be happy and bad things can still happen, right? You don't have to be a jolly person and rug sweep everything that's bad underneath the carpet, right? Because then you're just ignoring reality, like the bad parts of reality, and you're just like, well, only good things here. And so that's one of those toxic positivity things, right? Where you don't recognize the negative aspects of life, and you just go and you just do the positive things, and you're just always looking on the bright side without ever realizing that the shadows are there, and the shadows do matter too. So again, that's more of learning how to regulate ourselves in these ways of, you know, calming down, of you know, I know when you know, we're going to talk about some tips here in a few, but when it comes to, like, if I am tilted or I am annoyed, I'll take a breather. I'll take 5 minutes, I'll take 10 minutes, you know, I'll just say, hey, hold up, I need a moment. Or, you know, I'll just yell some obscenities and just, you know, just never at people, but it's okay to yell too. Yelling is a fine way of letting out excess feelings. Just don't do it at people. And if you're gonna yell, just make sure you be like, hey, you know, because yelling can be a trigger. It is one of my triggers too. So just, like, you know, be courteous of the space that you're in, and don't yell at, you know, even if you're just yelling into the void, make sure that you either let your friends know that you're gonna do some yelling, or like you mute yourself so that you do some yelling, or just, you know, let your friends know that yelling is a way that you express yourself, and you understand that it can get intense, and that you take your yelling and you regulate it, right? You regulate it to fit your needs, and you don't bring other people into it. So definitely, like, what are some things that y'all do to calm yourself down? What are some things that y'all do whenever the tilt hits in and the frustration hits in? Curse like a sailor, then blast music. Hey, that's a good one. That's a good one. Like I said, you know, when I was younger, I would not toss, but, like, you know, I would be upset and, like, release the controller onto the carpet and like, because we can't, you know, you can't break it, you can't afford a new one, but you just like, and then you just, like, you know, you just drop it from your hands and you let it go. And now, you know, nowadays, if I'm experiencing something, I'll take a moment. I'll take it like, hey, you know, it's not that serious. It's just a game. And if I'm not having fun with it anymore, that's when I start to take a step back and think, well, why am I playing this if I'm not having fun? Right? Why am I doing this if it's just nothing but pain? And, you know, you see it a lot, like with Dark Souls, right? Souls-like games where it's very unforgiving if you die, right? And you lose all of your souls that you worked, like all your progress that you worked hours for, and then it's all gone, right? And that's part of the fun of the game, but it's also a frustrating part. And it's understandable to like get upset and get angry. But the one thing you don't want to do, right, is if you're like a desk slammer or something like that, is you want or yellow for that matter. There are healthy ways of doing it, and there's nothing wrong with doing it, but you just got to make sure that you and your friends know, or like your company that you're with know to that what you're doing is not a reflection of what's happening with them. It's how you process what's happening. And I think this goes behind like the intent of the emotions versus actuality of what's happening, right? Because intent doesn't matter if you hurt somebody, because you hurt them, right? They're hurt. That's all there is to it. It doesn't matter what you were trying to go for. It doesn't matter like if you were just, oh well, this wasn't pertaining to you, like you weren't supposed to be a part of it. They get hurt, right? And it that goes with the intent. Like, you know, sometimes the intent is there to help with the understanding, right? And the actual cause of like the actual what happens is the result, right? And sometimes the intent doesn't matter if the result is a negative one, because people still get hurt. People, you know, will still understand that, you know, that you do rage, and people have those kind of triggers too from violence, right? That's also a trigger for people. And just like yelling is a trigger for me, like that anger, that rage of hitting something like your desk and having it like that sound reverberate, that anger, that destruction, you know, that just that feeling of is triggering. It's because we all have different lives and we all have different experiences and we all have had trauma in the past, and sometimes, you know, that anger, even though it's released in a way that, you know, it's or for somebody it could be okay, but for other people it could be triggering. So when you're playing with people or you know, it's when you're playing with people and you have to let them know that if you are a physical display of anger, that one, you have it under control. You're not gonna unleash it on them no matter what situation calls for, right? And two, like you understand that your team or your friends could have triggers to this, and so you do what you can to avoid triggering them, right? Be it like you mute while you displayed that anger or something. Most of the time, like you want to process that anger and those frustration feelings, and being destructive is a way to do it. But when you're in with the group, again, you don't want to set off triggers for your friends. You don't want to you know, I used to live with people. I used to be a desk banger. I used to live with people who were desk bangers. And like, I get it. It's a form of releasing that anger. But again, when it comes to like our past and our trauma and learning how to manage that anger and frustration, right? You kind of have to ask yourself at some point, what is okay and what isn't in your life. And what I mean by that is like, it's not only your life, right? It's your life and your group of friends, your community, your whoever you like to hang out with, right? Because there's nothing wrong with banging your desk to release that frustration, as long as you understand that you're not like why you're getting angry at it. And if you're getting angry at something that's you know, you need to take a moment to take a break and like to understand your anger, that's different, right? That's different. That's a different kind of anger, because it's like you don't understand that anger. You're just angry and you want to smash something, right? It's like the Hulk, right? You just anger, want to smash, and then you got to be like you know, going off the Marvel's Hulk, the intelligent Hulk, who's like, okay, I understand my anger. I understand how we can coexist with each other, and smashing may not always be the thing I need to do, especially when I'm with friends who have triggers or who have trauma related to it, and I need to learn how to channel that anger whenever I'm playing with this group, and you know, sometimes even for yourself. It really depends on how you want to grow. But when you're playing with other people, and you have to learn how to regulate those emotions so that you don't trigger other people's stuff, right? And again, this goes into like, you know, what the verb, or not verb, the vocabulary word is on the screen, as well as like related to other people's triggers, because we want to be accommodating, we want to be respectful of other people, we want to be understanding. And this is one of those things that we don't have to agree upon. How, you know, like, they don't have to agree upon with you, like, you know, man, you know, you're a deathbanger, ooh. But as long as you do it in a way that's constructive and not in a lashing out way, then it's understandable, right? You can go about being something like that and doing things like that, while taking your own feelings and other people's feelings into consideration as well. You would use run when playing Sea of Thieves. Now you just do push-ups till failure. And I stopped playing Sea of Thieves. Yeah, that's another, right? That's channeling the energy, right? Again, that's taking one way of doing it, realizing that it doesn't work. Like, it worked then, it doesn't work now. And then you process that, hey, you know, I want to change something up because it's not exactly working. And then you formed one habit and you turned it into another habit, right? You're just like, hey, this wasn't working out, let's try something else. And then you realize, you know what, this habit isn't working out either, let me just stop playing the game completely. Again, that's very valid. That's a very valid way of doing things and handling situations as well. But yeah. As long as you understand your intent behind your emotions, right? And as long as you try to be understanding, as long as you talk to your community, your friends, or whoever, and try to tell them or explain to them how you process things, and that it's of no, and saying and meaning it are two different things, right? You have to say it and you have to mean it, right? Because like, if you get angry and be like, oh, no, it's not you, trust, and then like, you're only getting angry around that one person whenever you're playing together, they're gonna pick up on that, they're gonna realize that, and then your actions don't match your words, and then you know, there's more to it that goes on from there, right? So you have to say it and you gotta mean it too. There's a lot more, like, there's a lot more of just trying to get it all in, and yeah, just make sure you're not lying to yourself and you're truthful to yourself when you do experience these emotions, and you do go off on trying to regulate them. Be truthful to yourself. It's hard, and you know, like I said, communication is something that we as people, it's probably one of the toughest things to do. And like, it's the very basics of what we need to do as people to get along together. Yeah, let's go on to the next word. Frustration tolerance. How well you handle things not going your way. Again, this is a little bit different than you know, if emotional regulation is how to manage yourself from going to extremes. Frustration tolerance is just exactly that. Like, if things aren't going your way, how well do you take it? Right? If you're losing constantly, right? What's due to whatever reason, like losing streaks, lag, bad teammates, skill issue, you know, whatever it could be, like, what does you know, what is your frustration tolerance? What allows you? Because, you know, for me, I could play Overwatch constantly, right? Daily. I used to play Overwatch 24 hours a day, and I used to have people say, how do you not get so angry or upset while playing Overwatch? And it has to do with frustration tolerance, right? It's one of those things that, like, I didn't care if I won or lost at Overwatch, because one, I always tried to learn something from my matches, and two, I know that one match doesn't like signify who, like, what I am or how skilled of a gamer I am, right? You know, another one is these matches, you know, they come and go so easily, and they're just so many. There's so many matches to have. So why am I going to start getting frustrated if I don't do well? Why not instead take that frustration and turn it into a learning experience of like, hey, I'm trying to learn how to play this character, or hey, I'm trying to learn how to better, like, play this character better. And like, if they have, you know, if I'm making the enemy rage, right, then then I know I'm doing something good, right? And that means I know I'm playing the game correctly in this match if I'm making somebody rage. But it's also like the losses don't really get to me because it's one, like, to me it just feels like it's just a game like any other, and you're gonna have those good times, you're gonna have those bad times, you're gonna have those really bad times where you lose. There's one morning I played Overwatch for like 8 hours and I'm pretty sure I lost like 90% of the matches, just constant losses. I think it was like a 20 loss streak that I had. Have you tried playing better? But yeah, there's like 20 matches that I lost back to back, and like, it just sometimes it feels like, man, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe, like, you know, things are going awful because of me, and it's understandable, but it's not because of you. It's a lack of synergy between your teammates, or maybe it's a lack of skill, or maybe it's a lack of knowledge, right? And sometimes you have to either like go the extra or lag. Yeah, hacks, yeah, there's a million different reasons, right? There could be whatever, it's whatever, and it's, again, it goes into that frustration of how well you handle things not going your way. And that's difficult, right? That's difficult to adjust to. It's difficult to learn how to manage your feelings, and especially when something's triggering, right? Especially when something is setting you off already, and it's just like, man, what do you do to get that frustration down, to avoid hitting the max levels of you know, of emotional regulation, right? How well is that frustration? How well can you handle that and be in control of your emotions? How well can you live feed that frustration, process it, and then release it as whatever you need to? And it's definitely difficult when you know, I wasn't always, like I said, I wasn't always like this, and I had to do a lot of growing to get to this point in my life. Back when I was playing League in my early 20s, my frustration tolerance was very low. Everything was setting me off, and it turns out that I was a very unstable person in my 20s, and I needed a lot of guidance when it came to emotional regulation. I needed a lot of guidance and tools to figure out how to process my own feelings, and I wouldn't learn that until like my mid to late 20s, probably closer to my mid 20s. It's definitely somewhere in between that time frame, mid to late 20s. And so, like, I would let everything would frustrate me. Everything would get there because my life was in shambles outside of gaming. And like, I would bring that energy into my gaming, and I would, you know, it was, you know, you could be anonymous online, so you could be more of an asshole and not really have to pay the consequences online. So what's like a weak ban, you know? It's like, what is that? It's not really much. It doesn't really do much. An indefinite ban, yeah, I could see that. You know, that would definitely do something. But a weak ban is just kind of like, and it depends, right? Because if you can make a new account just easy peasy, then it's not really doing much, right? It's just a more for show thing. But yeah, frustration. I used to get frustrated a lot, and it had to do a lot with like expectations, and like how I wanted other people to play the game, and how I needed other people to be accommodating to me and the way I played, and the way I viewed myself as the center, as opposed to a part of the group, right? As opposed to a circle, and just be the center part instead of being on the outside part. And so there's definitely a lot of tolerance that I had to learn. There's definitely a lot of skills, a lot of tools that I had to learn, and how to redirect my mind from lashing out this, taking in the frustration feeling and lashing it out, to taking it in, figuring out why I'm frustrated in the first place, and like sitting with that frustration and really just thinking about it, like breaking it down into the very, very basic concepts of why am I feeling this, right? And you just keep breaking it down more and more until you get to the root cause of it. And again, it's a lot like math, right? I'm very passionate about math. I love logic. I love the flow of command and all that stuff. And it's just like math. You have a problem, right? You have a solution or a problem, and you have to find these variables, right? You have to find out what X is, you have to find out what Y is, or what Z is, whatever variable it is, right? And you break down, you try and rearrange the problem to try and solve for those variables. And you have to break things down, because sometimes things are complex, and sometimes the things are really complex, and even breaking it down, you have your answer, but then you're like, what does this answer even mean? I could put it into the solution and it works, and it's probably the right answer, but what does the answer even mean, right? So there also has to be a some sort of not only finding the answer, but finding the meaning behind the answer, the why, right? And I think that's where, going into math a little bit, where math kind of fails in the way that we were taught, or at least I was taught, is that we don't really go into the why. It's just do, and you have to do this. You have to do this to solve it, and that's how you solve math, right? You just go and you just do numbers, and you just crunch, and then boom, you know how to do like the quadratic formula, right? Or something like that. But it's like, if we don't need to learn the reason behind the quadratic formula, right? Or the logic behind it, then what's the whole point of doing it in the first place? And there's a lot of logic that goes behind it, and not math. I know math, but but the frustration, tolerance, and how we feel, and our feelings and emotions that make us have to question, okay, why wasn't I why didn't I have the tolerance for this, or why did my frustration get to the levels that it did? And it's definitely, handling the frustration as it comes along can be difficult, especially since you have to do it live, right? Especially since it's just happening right there. And especially since if you're playing a game, you don't want to be like, well, okay, let me pause the game, let me take a step back from playing, just to figure out, like, to work on myself and figure out why I am being frustrated so much, why my tolerance is low, why I'm tilting so much, all that good stuff. And that's something that takes time. It's something that takes effort, and takes, it's something that not a lot of people want to work on. So it's one of those things that's just like, well, if you want to learn how to get better at it, you have to do some in-depth analysis. And again, it's just kind of like, if you want to get better at anything, you have to do analysis, right? If you want to get better at Overwatch, and this is something I had to do, is VOD review, right? You play a match, and then you're like, damn, why did we lose so bad? Or why did things end up the way they did in this match? How come I feel like I wasn't getting supported? Like, what was going on? And then you watch the video, and then you're like, oh, okay, well, this person wasn't in the right spot. Well, I wasn't in the right spot here. I was way overextended there. My team wasn't here. They should have been here. And of course, it goes into theory craft, but it gives you that better understanding, right? It gives you that better analysis. And then, if you're just like, well, I don't quite understand more, you go to other sources, right? You go look up online of YouTube videos of okay, well, there's the top 10 positions of Overwatch in these matches, right? Or you look up somebody who's very, very who has a high skill in the game, who understands the game very well, and they're like, okay, well, yeah, you want to be here, and you try and want to support your team this way, and you listen to their understanding, and you try to you listen to their explanations, and you try to be understanding to what they're saying, right? You try to grasp it. and then you try to bring it into your own games, right? You look for that coach, you look for that mentor, right? And when you're lost, and it's the same thing with your feelings, right? And again, going into like therapy and stuff like that, there's therapy can be used for a lot of things, not only just talking about your feelings and trying to understand what you're talking about, but it can also be like you can also go to your therapist and say, hey, look, I'm looking for tools right now, tools to help me understand myself. And y'all go together and explain what you're trying to understand. Like, if you're getting frustrated all the time, like, why am I getting frustrated all the time? And what are some tools I can get to help with that frustration so that I'm not frustrated all the time, so that I do have a higher tolerance to frustration, a higher tolerance to anger, a higher tolerance to again, these negative emotions that are hard to process as humans. I think you got into a point where you know yourself enough to make decisions to play certain games that I know would frustrate me. Yeah, and that's too, that's a part of it as well. Is knowing your boundaries, right? What you know will make you frustrated, and things that, if it's something that you realize it, and something that you are okay with not exploring those games, then you like you said, you understand, right? And it comes down to, like, if there ever is a time where you play those games and you know that you're going to get frustrated, and you want to dive into like a deeper, like, why exactly is the frustration there, and like you try testing out the waters, and like it's not going to go well because you're going to get frustrated, right? That's when like a guide is helpful, right? Something that'll help you traverse this frustration, right? I know, like, it's like a player's guide at that point, right? For like I remember I used to have like a Legend of Zelda player's guide, Ocarina of Time, to help me find all the items, right? And like those guys were huge back in the day. But like that takes away some of the frustration, right? That takes away some of the, wow, how the fuck did they ever think of this? I never would have gotten there, right? I'm playing a game right now called Martian Gothic Unification. I'm at the very end. It's one of the hardest puzzles in the game, and like I have no idea how the fuck to do it. And like I've looked up guides online on how to do it, and I'm still like, how the fuck am I supposed to do this, right? But it's a game I still got to beat, and it's a game that I still got to play, and it's like, sometimes, like, if you don't have that option to make that choice, and it's just put upon you that you have to do it, and again, this is not really talking about game playing, but so much as more of life, then like having those tools, having that player's guide will make that frustration. It's still going to be frustrating because you gotta do it yourself, right? You still got to be able to do it. But having that player's guide will definitely help you. Having those tools will definitely help you in managing that frustration and building that tolerance as you go about and do the things that will, that will frustrate you, right? And again, like for games and stuff, it's you could just say, yeah, I don't want to play that, right? Or I know this is going to make me tilt, I'm not going to play it, or I'm not in the mood to play it right now. And you make those choices, and those are very valid reasons to make those choices. And then comparing it to like the non-gaming stuff where we sometimes we don't have a decision, sometimes we have to just push through things, or it's just one of those, like, having that player's guide, having those tools will help you navigate that frustration as you move forward into it. And yeah, it's definitely something to it's hard to work on all this stuff that emotions are not easy. Emotions are all human, and it's human to experience all of these emotions. It's human to go through it all. It's human to be lost in life on trying to navigate these emotions, right? That's why we have people who spend all their life trying to understand, right? And trying to help people understand their emotions. That's why we have therapists. That's why we have people who are life coaches. That's why we have people who are willing to help others, because life itself is never easy. It's hard, it's difficult. Getting these, understanding these emotions is difficult. And especially when it comes to, especially when we have a lot of environmental factors that have a lot of expectations, that have a lot of life that just happens and like puts it on our plate, right? There's a lot to go on in our environment that affects us and how we game too. And there's a lot of expectations. There's a lot of I know I grew up with not learning how to express my emotions, because as a man, you're not supposed to, right? Like you emotions are what make people weak, right? Learning how to, like, it's okay to be angry. It's, you eventually, no matter what, bottled up emotions will always lead to the same thing, and it's just an explosion of whatever, right? Whatever it is, it'll be like, you close it, and then like you compress it with just more and more and more stuff, and eventually the lid pops because it can no longer hold it, and then you explode. And when you explode is when things get dangerous, because then, who knows what's gonna happen, right? It could just be you yell a lot, or it could just be you start getting physical, or it could be that you start, you start doing things that you normally wouldn't do. And like, you start having these thoughts, and like, well, what if I just did this and stuff like that, and maybe you don't have thoughts, maybe it's just blind rage, and it's just anger, and it's just, I don't know how to process any of this, and it's just going to explode at whoever's near you, or whoever you're gaming with, or whatever's around you, right? And that's the unhealthiest thing that's like the one thing we want to avoid, is that explosion of feelings, because then you don't have control anymore. Then it's just an explosion, and you're looking to say or do whatever you want, and you don't care who gets hurt. You don't care what happens in that moment. Later on, you might, backstep and be like, shit, I fucked up big, but and have resentment and stuff like that. But that's one thing that it's important to learn. And like I said, growing up, I didn't have those resources. I didn't have that understanding. I was taught that I wasn't allowed to be expressionate like that, and that I had to just quote unquote take it like a man, and just never have to think about emotions at all, which it doesn't work like that. Emotions don't work like that. It's okay to have a range of emotions. It's okay to be human. It's okay to not understand your emotions. It's okay to try and understand where you're coming from and where you're gonna go. It's not okay to lash out on other people. It's not okay to put your emotional feelings, your emotional burden onto other people. Emotions are for the weak. Walk it off. Yeah, so those are exactly right. Those are the things that we heard growing up, and that's not true. That, like, the logic doesn't pan out there. Emotions are for the strong, because that's an emotion too, right? Being strong is an emotion. It's like you take a look at warriors and stuff like that, and morale is a huge thing, right? And why is that? It's because emotions play a part of it. And it's okay to have like pride in who you are and what you do for work and stuff like that. And pride's also an emotion. There's emotions are all around us, and whether or not we know how to process them doesn't change the fact that we are emotional beings, and that we will experience all sorts of emotions in whatever form. So it's important to learn, right? Because knowledge is the power, and control. Knowledge is how you control yourself. Knowledge is how you prepare yourself for the worst to happen. Knowledge is how you say, hey, I'm gonna give myself the best fighting chance to prepare for these emotions. But yeah, we're about to switch to the next segment. We're gonna wait for the ad to finish, and we'll switch to the next segment, which is the questions. The questions that we have for me and y'all to answer. And yeah, as these words cycle here. But yeah, it's definitely important to learn and to grow and to dive into those experiences, those emotional experiences with like all of them, anger, jealousy, frustration, sex, logic, what joy, contentment, depression, all of it. They're important. All of them are important, and like because we all experience all of them at different moments in our life, and we have to learn how to process and how to understand it, and doing so will help us understand other people's traumas as well, other people's lives, other people's stories. And that's when we start learning to understand each other is when we'll be able to live a more like coexistent life with others. We don't have to agree upon everything, right? We don't have to agree upon all of our different terminologies or how we live our own lives personally, but we do have to make some sort of like attempt to get some sort of baseline, some sort of foundation, so that we can all build towards something like a wonderful, whatever it may be, like some sort of community or some sort of just coexistence of each other as we have to traverse through this life, right? This life that we may or may not have wanted or needed. And yeah. I'm gonna take a minute because I feel like I've been talking for a good bit. But again, this isn't really any different than what we normally do. We like to yap for hours anyway. So I always appreciate any chance I get to yapping, because then I can share, this is how I share my viewpoints with y'all, and this is how I share how I see life and how I choose to traverse life, with that of an understanding mind and trying to understand. And like, I get frustrated too, I get angry, I get jealous, I get happy, I get depressed, I get everything, right? I experience a whole wideness of emotions, and it wouldn't do myself justice to not work on myself for me, because now I know, like, I've learned so much about how to process myself and how the shortcomings of other people doesn't affect me. Welcome back from the ad break, everybody. Right, and that's another thing, is just learning how to God, my train of thought just went away. Learning how to realize that other people's shortcomings don't reflect me in a bad way, right? They're not a reason for me to they're not an implicate, like they don't have anything to do with me. Somebody else's shortcomings don't have anything to do with me. And that's part of learning about my own emotions, right? Is realizing that, is realizing that other people who don't work on their emotions, who don't see the world as I do, who aren't able to understand it like I do, that's like, that just comes from different perspectives, different sources of education, different depths of education, and then it comes from understanding each other, right? It comes from learning how to come together, to be able to talk with one another, to be able to understand each other, to be able to get to that point where...
Cheers, love! The cavalry's here!
Liv, thank you so much for the raid. Welcome on in, everybody. Welcome. Sashio Liv, hi, welcome. We were just getting to the end of the definitions and about to start asking questions. We'll leave the definitions on the screen, What's going on, Moldy? Hi. Welcome on, everybody. We're doing our Press F for Feelings podcast, and today we're talking about tilt and anger. And yeah, we would like to hear from y'all. You know, we're about to answer or ask some questions, and feel free to answer it however you want. It's, you know, this is about us and being truthful to ourselves. And yeah, I was just saying that, like, when it comes to other people not understanding, you know, it's not their shortcomings aren't a reflection of who we are as people. And I know it doesn't always feel like that because, you know, different emotions are tied to people, different feelings, different types of connections are there. And it feels like, damn, what if I just had done things differently, right? And it's just one of those, it's just no matter what you would do differently, it's not you, right? It's like, it's the situation and it's the person that you're talking to. And it's more of a shortcoming on them because they're not learning how to process or talk. They're just reacting. They're just, you know, not seeing it the way that you would. But we have some questions here that we would like to ask y'all. And the first question is, what was your last tilt moment and what caused it? This one, I'll go first. And y'all, let me see, I'll type it into chat. In case you haven't heard or you know, can't hear or have trouble hearing. That is the question. What was your last tilt moment and what caused it? The last tilt moment it would be for me was actually probably gaming with friends. We were all playing Overwatch, and my friends, some of them were being bullies, and that caused me to go silent. That caused me to not speak anymore, and it actually caused me to stop playing games with them altogether. So yeah, that was my last tilt moment. I actually tilted. Like I said, you know I tilted. You know, I got annoyed and frustrated at the Super Nintendo games, but that wasn't really tilt for me, right? That was just like it's something that I expect when I play them, and it's more frustration than it is tilt. And so when somebody was being a bully, and you know, I don't tolerate bullying, it causes friction, especially when other people tolerate bullying, but they don't say anything to act against it. So and again, you know, we can't expect people to live certain lives and stuff like that. It's just the kind of boundaries that we set for ourselves, right? And then that becomes to, well, my boundary is I don't tolerate bullying, and I'm not going to play with people who are bullying. And there's a difference between competitive shit talking and bullying, but I'm not going to play with people who are bullies. And you know, there's a difference between people who get excited about the game or want to do well and exceed, like criticism in both constructive ways. But when things start to just turn into bullying 100%, I'm out. Like, I don't care who you are. I'll try to talk to you if you want to listen. If you don't want to listen, I'm out. You know, like, and it becomes very apparent who wants to listen and who doesn't want to listen, because when you try to say something and they don't want to hear it, then they'll just shut you up. They'll try to do whatever they can to not bring that conflict or that uncomfortableness towards the group, and doing so invalidates how people feel. And like I said, you know, I know my boundaries, I know my worth, I know what exactly I want to do and who I want to hang out with. And people who are bullying, you know, who make me, who are sore winners, who say things that without even thinking, and they just regurgitate what is being said without thinking about anything at all. Those are the kind of people who trigger me, because they're not thinking. They're lashing out. They don't have the know-how to process emotions, and instead they just get an emotion and lash out. And again, I was like that when I was younger too, and so I get it, right? But it doesn't excuse not being able to take care of yourself, not being able to go the extra step into finding those regulations for yourself. Competitive shooters can bring out the worst in us. That's true, they can. 100% they can.
Drink water, you dehydrated bitch!
Thank you so much for the hydrate. Thank you, welcome on in. Years ago, when Sea of Thieves wasn't so streamlined, I was playing with friends, about 4 to 5 hours of plundering and grinding, only for some other crew to take all of our loot and spawn camp us from hiding on our ship. Wow, that would tilt the fuck out of me. That is, ooh. Yeah. And yeah, that's horrible. That's a horrible game design. Well, maybe not horrible, but some of the aspects seem pretty bad. There some of that should be like, there should be some sort of protection against some of that, right? And again, it goes into like, player killing, and it's been a thing for a while, but there have been fair ways and unfair ways to implement player killing, and some games they just don't care, right? Some games like what was it? Lineage? I think Lineage 2 had player killing. And like you could lose a lot of your stuff from your MMO character because of just player killing. And again, it's like spawn camping in competitive shooters, right? It's like you don't want the players, the other team, to play that game because, well, I mean, there's an abundance of reasons I could go behind it, right? But yeah, like actual tilt just for me comes from personalities and people that I spend time with. It's more about who I play with, and again, it's like I have my boundaries, and I'm gonna honor those boundaries. And if the people who I'm playing with are triggering me so and are making me tilt, then why am I even playing with them? Why am I gonna be there? Why am I gonna pretend to be friends with people who don't respect? Thank you for the shout out, GPC. I am a bad mod and forgot to do so. I'm not a mod, I'm the streamer. But I'm also a bad mod. So thank you. But yeah, it's just one of those things that it's just like, why would I stay there, and why would I be a part of something that I actively fight against? And I'm not, and especially if it's one thing if people are understanding and want to try and learn. It's another thing to just to just keep going and just being like, no, I don't want to learn. I just want to experience this. I just want to rage. I just want to blindly go in. And it's, again, I wasn't always there mentally to accept my emotions. But I had to learn, right? And we all got to learn at some point. And the learning process is going to be different. But it's one of those things that as long as, you let the people that you are friends with, your community, your confidants, whoever you hang out with, know that you're learning, it's just one of those things, it's one of those things to be understanding about. But when there's no communication, that's when things start getting bad. And when there's a line of communication that's just severed, it's pretty bad. I tilted playing Rivals recently. I get upset at others sometimes, but mostly the tilt comes from being angry and hateful towards myself for failing. I understand that, yeah. If I'm not able to carry or help carry, at least I take it really hard. I get that, yeah. If we lose, I blame myself and I feel worthless. Makes me crash out because I'm beating myself up so hard. No, I understand that. That's definitely something I used to I used to struggle a lot with too. And you know, it's one of those things that just one person is not responsible for the whole team failing. And it's hard to separate the person from the team, right? Because you're a part of the team and you're like, you know, you're doing your best, and sometimes it's just not working out. You know, that's part of it, right? I you know, like, that synergy is important too with the team and stuff like that. But no, I get that completely. I get that. I used to think like that all the time. I used to be like, if I can't carry, if I can't be the guy, if I can't be that guy, then who am I? You know? But yeah, no, I appreciate it. You honestly don't remember your last real tilt? Because I tend to identify my triggers and be careful about my limit. Yeah, that's a very healthy approach to go about it, you know? You know your boundaries, you know how to regulate, you know how to what you can go with and what you can't, and you're just like, you know, there are some things I can do, and when I get to that point of you know, emotional regulation where I'm just at the top, right? When I'm about to blow my top, or maybe not even get that high up there, you know, it's just like from 0 to 100, you just say, hey, you know, I'm at 50% right now, and I know that I don't want to be anywhere more above 50%, so I'm just gonna do something that releases that tension so that I'm no longer at 50%. And of course, that's just an example. It doesn't have to be an actual number, but you understand what I'm saying. It's you understand yourself to the degree where you know where you feel comfortable with. You know where you stand, and you know that, you know, I don't want to get, you know, you don't want to be like that. You don't want to be that person. You don't, you actively fight to not get to that position. And that's, you know, there's a lot of strength in that. There's a lot of emotional strength in that. There's, you know, having that regulation is important. And I wish more, you know, it's something that everybody needs to learn how to do. Some days you play without any comms, it helps a lot. People are shit. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I know. Like, whenever I played Overwatch and competitive Overwatch, I never had any comms because I played a lot of games with comms, and most of the time it's just people dogging on you. There's not even any helpfulness. There's no, oh, somebody's over here. It's always like, man, you're such a shitty insert character here. Like, oh, you can't aim for shit. You know, the negativity. It's like, excuse you, you know, you're not, like, you're just some person in a game. I don't need your commentary if you're just going to be negative about everything. Like, I'm trying my best, and just like you are, and yeah, sure, it may not be, you know, we may not be winning the match, but this whole match isn't on me for playing horribly. There's 5 other people or 4 other people on this team that are not in what they're doing, like doing what they're supposed to do to synergize with the group and to support each other and to be there for each other like a group instead of just 5 individuals playing a game. I get that. Totally not you watching wrestling and forgetting to do mod stuff. You're good, GBC, you're good. Is this ass beat nobody yet? It's harder when you stream because you don't want to cut stream or change game because people are watching. Yeah, that's fair. You think it's harder for content creators? What's the point, right? Being negative won't help people wanting to do their best. Yeah, it's true. Being negative would do the exact opposite. And, you know, it is true that, like, being a streamer does make it, like, a little bit more difficult, right? Because now you have to take into effect, like, what you're playing and the content that you're making. And failing on stream is part of the fun. Yeah, it can be. Sometimes people will enjoy watching you fail and make mistakes. Yeah, that's true. And people do like that. And you know, people do like the rage that comes behind it, right? The staged rage, right? Because you don't have to actually be an angry person. You just have to make a show. And that's the entertainment part, right? And that's the other part of streaming from just playing the game and doing the work, right? You have to be an entertainer too. You have to talk to chat. You have to be engaging. You have to, you know, not only have good skill, but you have to have a personality. And sometimes that personality is fake rage. sometimes that personality is real rage, and you let that rage go, and like it's people are like, oh, he made this person look like an ass, right? Again, it goes into bullying, right? And the mean girls effect of, if you're in, you're in, and when you're in, it's not like, you're part of the in crowd. So why do you give a fuck about what other people think? Because you're part of the in crowd, right? And again, it's not a right way of viewing things. It's definitely not a healthy mindset to have about it. But yeah, definitely there's a lot that goes into streaming as well. There's a lot of behind the scenes work, and again, like forming your personality and what you as an entertainer, like how do you want to entertain your group of people, your community, whether it be real or a whole show to put on. And there's definitely a there, I think there needs to be a bar of accountability for people. I think there does need to be some sort of, like, not really disclaimer that this is, that the rage is fake, so to say, but more of like an understanding that this is not an acceptable practice to have in the real, like when you communicate with other people or when you're playing games yourself. And when this person does it, it's if they're doing it for realsies and then like actively raging out and flaming people, then they need to stop doing that, and we need to hold them accountable for that. But also, like, if they're doing it for a show, then definitely make a distinction that this is for a show and not really how you view things. Or like, of course that doesn't, I'm not trying to say like that negates your rage at people. Don't lash out on other people. That's never lash out at other people. But definitely, just if there is like a personality that you're trying to type, like what is it, angry video game nerd, right? He raged against games, right? That was his whole thing, was just constant rage, and that was funny, right? That was funny to some people, and that was his content. It's just him playing old games and raging about how bad they were, and not only how bad they were, but and you see it with other streamers too, and with other YouTubers like the Game Grumps, right? They're two wholesome people who just game and stuff like that, but one of them is more chill and the other one's more like rage and do, like, like the personality. Well, they both have good personalities. I just mean like one's more actively displaying rage, and I'm not sure how if they actually feel like that, or yes, acting angry trash talk for the show, yeah. And then like when they're out of the show, thank you, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. It's just they're more chill, more not like that. It's all for show. Never followed a streamer because of how well they played a game. I don't think I have either. I think I'm more about just the personality of a person and how much I vibe together with them. Like I said, I'm not very much into the whole rage scene. I'm not very much into the toxicity scene. And like, I do some competitive shit talking myself, but never to the point where I'm hurting somebody. And I'll always take into somebody else's, into consideration somebody else's feelings before I say something. And if I do hurt somebody's feelings, I'll definitely apologize, because fuck hurting somebody's feelings. Most of the time the content is a bonus when you watch personality watcher as well. Most of the time the content is a bonus. Yeah, I agree. Most of the time the content is the bonus, and you're just there for the good times and the vibes, and like how just to watch how they play the games and stuff like that, and to see them fail and to see them make those mistakes and to have giggles of like, oh, I can't believe they did that, or stuff like that. The time spent in chat and talking to someone I vibe with is more important. Yeah, I can see that. I'm a big community person myself, and like I would rather have sustenance with people who are part of the community than to just watch somebody like play a game well. And like, cause I can play a game well too. Like it may not be to their standard. But when you had like, what does that even mean? Because again, when you're talking about team games, it's part of the team, right? And you can have immaculate accuracy, and you can be popping off left and right, and then your team loses, and it's just like, well, it wasn't my fault, but it's like you weren't playing as a part of a team, and you're still on the losing team, so yeah, it is a part of your fault. But again, it's one of those things that it's just difficult to play as in team games, because you're part of 4 other people, and you have to synergize, and if that synergy isn't there, it doesn't matter how good you are, because the synergy is not there. There's always going to be a team that's going to be better than you, and like, even if you're the top, like if you win the league games and whatever, your team is the top number 1, that just means you're number 1 for now, right? Nothing lasts forever. People's lives change, and people retire, people quit from competitive gaming because of that, right? In real life and in video games. Unless some after a while, because at first the person seems nice, and in fact they were being bullied on some competitive games. Yeah. No, yeah. No, I feel that. I feel like it's a very common thing of like a lack of accountability, and what, like, thinking that they're the exception to the rule when everybody's part of the same thing. We're gonna go into our next question. How do you know when you're tilted versus annoyed? Now this is a good question to ask, right? Because what is the difference between tilted and annoyed, right? And according to this, tilt is the emotional frustration that affects your decision making or performance, and being annoyed is just that, right? Being annoyed. When I'm playing Super Nintendo games and I'm dying constantly because of bullshit mechanics, or just the difficulty of the game or whatnot, that's I'm annoyed, right? That's not me tilting, because I'm not like, I can still make decisions. I'm not just jumping off the cliff to die. I'm not just intentionally feeding the team. I'm not just, going in and just making the game miserable for everybody else, right? When I'm annoyed, it's more of just like, damn, I know I can do better. The rage, when you tilt, you want to smash stuff. Yeah, that's fair. When I'm tilted, I get quiet. So if you ever notice me get quiet, you know that something's not right. And a lot of that is just because I don't want to do or say something that I'll regret later. And silence has its own voice. Silence speaks volumes of itself. That something is not right. Something that could be changed, or maybe I need something to change. But yeah, so when I get annoyed, like if I'm playing Overwatch or Rivals or anything like that, some team-based game, my annoyance usually comes with me falling into the same traps, so to say, of just walking out and then getting domed in the head because of a mistake I made, and then I keep on making the same mistake, and it's just, I'm just like, damn, I need to stop making that mistake. Versus me being tilted, I'm just, I get quiet, I don't want to speak anymore, I don't want to be there anymore. Like, it's just, it's one of those things. It's like the end of it all. Like, you're just done with it, and I'm just done with it, and like, I don't want to partake in something that would just frustrate, like get me angry to the point where I no longer feel comfortable or safe expressing myself. When the urge to rage quit exceeds the desire to continue playing. Hey, that's a good one too. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's exactly what I was. That's what I was saying. Again, playing the Super Nintendo games, right? We didn't rage at all. We were expressionate about how we felt about those games. That's for sure. and we definitely said a lot of swear words, and we definitely put the controller down a few times. But we never gave up on any of those games. And again, with like when I play online, I don't ever try to give up on any of my games, because there's always a way to learn. There's always a way to continue the fight. And even if you guys don't win, or even if we don't win the game, I can still try to better myself, better my skills against that person who's just winning constantly over and over again. And you know, sometimes you don't, and that's just the game. But sometimes you can learn a thing or two from how you're playing versus how somebody just has your number in that game. Being annoyed, you can still point at the things you can improve. I feel like when you're tilting, you can't do anything anymore, and you don't care at all. Yeah, that's again, that's a. Sometimes people are better. Yeah, that's true. Sometimes people are better, and that's a very like I agree with that statement. It's you can definitely, like, if you're annoyed, you're not quite there at the point of no return where things just don't matter anymore. Things still do matter, and like you can still come back and work on whatever you need to. You might not win, and that's fair, but you can still work on improving. Right, you can work on improving your positioning or your team communication or something, right? And when you just don't care anymore, it's just you're done with it. You don't want to learn, you don't want to grow, you just want to play something, and now that it's not playing to your standard, it's done, right? There's nothing else to it. It's just you're done. You don't want to do anything with it anymore. But yeah, we can go on to the next question. What helps you calm down mid-match or convo? This is a very, it goes more into how we handle our rage and frustration, right? And it's how we calm down, right? For me personally, how I calm down, there's it depends. It depends on the situation and how angry I am. Sometimes I have to walk away. Sometimes you know, I try not to let it affect my mood. I try not to, like, you know, cancel all my plans because of it. But sometimes, you know, you know, like I said, I'm human and I get caught up in my emotions as well. But walking away, you know, taking a breather, taking a 5-10 minute, not queuing up instantly, you know, just letting my friends know, like, hey, that was a really rough match. You know, talking through. I think talking is probably something I like to do when I'm upset. It's definitely one of those things that it's communication is important to me. If I'm at a point where I don't talk, like I said, oh my goodness. If I'm at a point where I don't talk, I'm already really tilted, right? And that means that I'm not going to talk anymore. And that means that I know I need to take a moment to step away, to give myself some distance, give myself some space, give myself something to get out of that situation, right? Do something that's different, like get away, get me away so that I can calm down and learn to be okay with what's, like, process what's happening around me. You know, it's like I said, you know, it's okay to get annoyed, it's okay to get frustrated, it's okay to get tilt, because that's just human emotions. Same as it depends if I'm too far in it, I need to mute, yeah, pause the game, go away for a bit, yeah. When I feel it coming, I try to put things in perspective. I'm tired, it's okay not to play good, they might be new to the game, I can be bad, it's okay. Yeah, I get that. And you know, last when I was doing that 36-hour stream, I I was, of those Super Nintendo games, I was getting, there was a lot of times I would get upset and frustrated at those games. And a lot of it comes from me being tired. After a certain point, you're up and you're just kind of grouchy. And then, you everything starts to irritate you. Everything is just, oh man, could this just get a little bit better? and then it starts to, like, other aspects of your life start to bleed in too, right? Because you're doing a show and you're just human. And it's like, well, for me recently, I've had a lot of change in community. I've had a lot of change in routines, and there's a lot of change that's happening, and change can be difficult. And so when it comes to being tired and gaming, I already have all those emotions on me. Like there's a lot going on, and there's definitely just this sort of, like, when you're tired and you don't want to process it all, or you're trying to process it but you literally can't because you're not in the right headspace to, then things start to, like, you start talking, and then, like, your feelings from other parts of your life dive into your gameplay as well, right? And you take out that frustration, that anger that you have, and you're just like, God damn it, this is not working out right, and all that kind of stuff. The more you're tired, the worse you play. The worse you play, the more frustrated you get. Yeah. It's just a cycle, right? It's just a cycle of more frustration and hurt until you wear yourself out. But definitely, other parts of like your life definitely play an aspect and a huge role in it too. You don't want to, we don't want to bring the other parts of our life in there, but sometimes we don't have a choice, right? Sometimes life just happens that way, and like the different aspects, the different troubles that you're going through just pop out and just become more apparent. Usually the music does it for you. Games like Donkey Kong Country 2, Cities, Halo had really great soundtracks. I played during an intense session. Yeah, music, yeah, that is a good one. One of the things I really love about Liv streams is her redemption, right? Whenever she plays Thor, I love redeeming that, because it's like, I know, like, it's not, maybe it doesn't fit the situation all the times I play it, but it makes me feel like I'm watching, like, motherfucking Thor just in action. It takes a moment and it just amplifies it. I really like, the Halo music whenever the theme starts playing, and you're just kicking it, like, what is that, the ending sequence, and the theme song just starts playing, and it's just like, oh shit, hell yeah, really get you into the groove. Doom does that really well too. Donkey Kong Country really puts you in that chill perspective, like what we're listening to right now. There's a lot of good Donkey Kong Country music that's like that. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of calm down. Is music is a good one to do so. And yeah, normally, like I said, normally for me, I take 5 to 10. If I'm that frustrated or upset, I'll take that time to figure out why. It's like, why am I this upset? Is it the game? Is it me? Like, is it something that's going on in my life? Is it the environment? What's happening? And I'll process that information, and then when I do, it's like, well, now I have my answer. What do I want? Like, how do I proceed from here? Do I continue to take a break? Do I continue to press on, knowing, like, what's all gonna happen? Do I honor my boundaries and just be like, yeah, this isn't working out, I need to leave because this just isn't, like, we don't fit. This isn't quite the fit I'm looking for. Trying to know why is already a big step. You need to learn how you work before that. Yeah. it's hard work. It really is. It's a lot of work. There's and you know, this is a lot of questions that a lot of people don't ask themselves. There's a lot of questions that you know, the people don't understand the difference of how the differences are, and then like when you get there, like, you know, it's just, oh yeah, you know, we're doing our best and all that kind of stuff. And then, you know, sometimes it's just, even then, right, like even saying you're doing your best and can be a form of adding frustration to somebody, because now they're like, okay, well, I didn't mean to take out like this emotion, but now the team is feeling my feelings too, and I don't want to pull that energy in there, and it's just like, well, now you're doubling down on those feelings, because now you got the frustration of doing everything that you do, and like the game going wrong, and then now you have the frustration that you have that's put on yourself from not understanding your team, or having your team be you know, upset with you because of how you're displaying who you are, you know, and or not displaying, but I guess it's a display, but displaying who you are, and maybe not a form that's that works with your team. So there's definitely a lot of instances where having your team, having, you know, your friends and having whoever you're playing with be frustrating at you can add to that frustration as well. Nothing to do with the subject, but your t-shirt seems very cool. It's a mix of Scott Pilgrim and Steven Universe. I'll stand up real quick. It's Steven Universe versus the world. And it's a mix of Scott Pilgrim and Steven Universe, in which I love both the movie and the comics of Scott Pilgrim. And the TV show Steven Universe. Steven Universe is a wonderful show if you guys haven't seen it. It's has to do a lot with handling emotions and just life in general. And it's a wonderful show. It's a kid show, but like it's really good. It's really good at displaying how to the color is great too. Yeah, I like it too. How to display emotions in a healthy way, and how to learn and grow from bad habits into good ones. But yeah, so some of the things, again, just to kind of going over the question, things that help calm me down, taking a minute, you know, away from what's happening, a change in understanding, you know, trying to figure out what's going on, and like, you know, if I do go quiet during a game setting or a match, and it's mostly because I need time to process what's happening and to bring my levels down of guilt and frustration from up here to some other line, and to figure out why I'm getting tilted and frustrated in the first place, and to try and resolve that issue by whatever means I need to. And then we go on to our last question of the evening. Have you ever lost a friendship or gaming group because of unmanaged tilts? It's a long question to ask. Oh yeah, not your tilting, but I left an Overwatch team because of the people. Yeah, I feel that. Recently, I recently had to experience something like that. Where a friend group that we did, that we were really close friends, ended up going away because for me. Because there was somebody who did have unmanaged tilt issues, and who did have unmanaged emotional issues just in general. And that's something that, you know, again, I had to respect my boundaries and you know, the who I am, and you know, what I accept, and I had to leave it because of that. I had to leave all of that because of the way that the group was going, and it just diverged from the way I was going, and that's okay. It's just something that happens, and I know who I am, and the shortcomings of other people does not reflect poorly on who I am. We were training for a tournament, and serious competitive. Yeah, 2 or 3 people were talking shit at each other, and that's not something you wanted. Yeah, I feel that. It is definitely something that I understand. I've left a lot of groups because of that. I've left. It turns out that I'm leaving more groups than having groups left me, and it's more of a, I know who I like, what I want out of my friends. Right? I know I have high expectation, or maybe not high. I have expectations of my friends. Right? I have boundaries that I'm not willing to personally ignore. And when things, and I don't know, for those of you who don't know me, I'm a very talkative person, and I'm very understanding, and I'm very like, if you want to talk to me to get to know me and to get to know what's wrong, I'm willing to talk it out. I'm willing to talk out most situations. There's I have some hard boundaries that I'm not going to talk out, and it's mostly like if you're telling somebody to hurt themselves in any way, or especially if you're being cruel about it. You can honestly say you never lost a friendship or group from Tilt, from one group in particular. We all just kind of grew up and drifted apart. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. There's a lot that we accept, right? There's a lot that we know from our friends, and we're like, this will be all right. We can tolerate this, and then things just kind of fizzle out, right? It's the ebb and flow of life. Things just kind of go in and out, and we never know quite when things will end, but everything comes to an end eventually. But yeah, I know that, like, probably some people haven't seen eye to eye with me, or maybe because I approach confrontation and conflict, and like sometimes I can come off as kind of aggressive. Do you hear Abyss music? Might be. I'm listening to a Donkey Kong Country playlist. Definitely stop playing with people that made you feel bad about yourself and criticize you regularly. I moved games so I didn't have a confrontation. Yeah, that's fair. It's one of those, like, it's understandable. Probably when I was younger, I would say that I made, like, other people not want to play games with me because of, I actually know I have, because of my tilts and frustration, and like going back to my league days when I was a very angry person, and I was very hating the world and hating everything that life gave me, and just like, just kind of didn't know how to handle myself as a person. I definitely let that tilt out on other people, and then let that anger out on other people, and let that frustration out on other people. And it's definitely caused me, like, I know for a fact it caused somebody that I cared about to have a talk with me and be like, you need to stop this shit right now. and they did, but afterwards they never played with me again, because I understand the damage was already done. And like, we were still friends, and I changed the way who I was because of it, but they never gamed with me like that again. And I understand it was because of me and my actions. I understand that it's because of how I treated somebody, how I treat random people. And that made them not want to play games with me. And again, the opposite is true too. Like I was saying, it's just people who who don't quite understand what they're doing, and don't have the emotional intelligence to understand what they're doing, and not regulate how toxic they are, or how much of a bully they are, because again, I don't put up with bullying. I don't like bullying. I never liked bullying, and I used to be a bully too online and online gaming spaces, and I moved away from that, and I don't tolerate it anymore. I just don't. So when people are bullying, and there's some talks to be had, and they don't, it's pretty much they just go in one ear out the other. It's like, well, I don't want to be a part of this. And again, it goes into like expectations that we have from our friends, right? Bad teammates are what tilts you the most. And it's that's fair. It's fair to have that, and it's fair to have that emotion and feeling. How you doing today, Fungi? Welcome on it. But yeah, going about again, like having others disrespect my boundaries, and even though I do have expectations of my friends, it just realizes that this is an expectation I have for people in general. If they can't follow it, then like they're not bad people, they're just different, too different for me to remain friends with. And you're doing great hanging out with the molds. Nice. And yeah, again, they're not necessarily bad people because we had different ideologies, but again, it's a boundary that I have on myself to not accept that in my social circles. And yeah, that's like there are some expectations of others to hold like a standard, right? But I'm not like, I'm never gonna force somebody to be, I'm not gonna be like, hey, you gotta like, meet this criteria to play games with me, or meet this criteria to be my friend. It's more of, okay, I see that you growing a different way than like we're both have different lives, and we're just growing apart, right? We came together at some point, we had good times, and now we're growing apart, and that's okay. Like, I don't expect people to change for me in any way. It's just kind of like, I have my boundaries and you have yours, and they don't meet. Sometimes they clash, and that means that sometimes we just drift away. Sometimes that means that we go apart from each other. Sometimes that means that we tend to focus on different parts of our lives with each other, from each other, and just maybe not have anything to do with each other anymore. And that's just one of the parts of life. This just happens, and it doesn't mean anybody's a bad person or anything. It just is, right? That's just part of it. But yeah, that's all the questions I have. And so now we can talk about some tips and stuff to help manage tilts and anger and frustration. And if you guys have anything else that you'd like to ask or comment on or mention, feel free to do so, because now's the time for it. We're already getting to the 2 hour, like almost the 2.5 hour mark of this this episode, so we're going to be calling it here shortly. Let's go over some of these tips to help. We talked about some of them already, but there's some of these tips to help anger and frustration during the thick of it. Take a break. Put it on pause. Give yourself a minute to not hit the requeue button. Give yourself the time that you need to process what's happening. Even if you're streaming, like, take a 5 to 10 minute break. It's talk to yourself. Walk yourself through the process to calm down. Scream into a pillow. Yeah, exactly. But take a break. Do what you need to process those feelings that you have, and so that you don't blow your top and then have to like change the whole mood of everything that's around you. You're in control of your feelings, and like you're in control of, and we may not be in control of what triggers us and what gets us frustrated, but we are in control of how we manage that, right? And sometimes it just means taking a break. Sometimes that means sitting out a game. Sometimes that means like going for a walk. Yeah, exactly. Allow yourself to express your frustration in a non-toxic way. That's a good way of putting it. Another thing that you can do is what's called a sensory reset. Add some music, change the music up. Change your lighting. Go from something that's really light to really dark. Something that might make you, or vice versa. You know, add some color to your room and you know, just have some sort of change around you. Sometimes just saying I'm fed up is already a big step. Yeah, you're acknowledging the emotion that's happening currently, and that is a big step because not a lot of people even get there. So yeah, that is a big step. Even saying, like, being honest with yourself and your emotions of what's going on, and you know, and sometimes we just want to speak without others trying to solve our issues. And that's okay too, you know, it's okay to say something like, hey, I'm fed up. I just want to let you guys know we don't really need to talk about it or anything. I don't really like need advice or anything right now. But I just want to let you know that I'm a little bit fed up right now and I need to like take a minute to process, or I need to do something to help me process this fed upness or whatever. You know, be it bad teammates or lag or just you think that you're not yourself, like you yourself are fucking up greatly. Just take a minute and just be like, hey, we don't need, you know, like, we don't need to, I don't need any help with this. I'm just expressing myself. I'm a little fed up right now, and it doesn't have anything to do with y'all. It's the game. The game is making me fed up. And, you know, just expressing how you feel and giving, like, being communicative. I'm not sure if I'm ever going to pronounce that word right. Communicating with your team and your group of friends that it's okay. Like, it's okay to feel like, it's okay to have those feelings. It's okay not to need any help handling them. You just want to let them know that, hey, I'm not fed up at you. I'm fed up at the game, and it's causing me some issues at the moment that I'm trying to process. And again, you know, sensory reset, change in music, change in lighting, you know, pet an animal, something to give your senses something to do other than just stimulation from the game. A change in environment and all that kind of stuff. Another thing you could do is keep a journal. Keep a journal for whenever you tilt. If you're into journaling and that's something that you like to do, I've tried to get into journaling, and I guess sometimes I do with like I guess AI has become my journal for the most part. But journaling, when you tilt, how it happened, how you felt, like all that kind of stuff can be very, very helpful for you when you're trying to express who you are as a person and to understand what makes you tilt, and you want to try and manage that more. Journaling helps you regulate you through the week. Yeah. I've tried, and you know, I'm still trying to get into it, and it can be a little bit difficult because I'm like, why am I writing this? It feels a little silly. But it gives agency, right? It gives agency to the things we do. It gives agency, like it's in, you know, in science, it's a point, it's a data point that we can track to help see patterns and rhythms and flows to understand who we are better. At first it's very hard. Oh yeah, for sure, yeah. And again, you know, I use AI to help me with my journaling, because it's not so much I use it to like write the journal entries for me, but I'll tell it and it'll give like advice and stuff like that, and it's more of like a back and forth journaling than just me writing and having to sit with my thoughts. But I too am trying to get more into just sitting with my thoughts instead of trying to fix everything. So it's definitely one of those that's trying to nail down, and you need to find a way that works for you. Yeah, that's true. You do. And this is just another one, right? Just try journaling out. Try journaling why you tilt, how it makes you feel, and what, like, the situation will happen, right? And then, you know, over time you start getting into a rhythm, and you start seeing patterns, and you start realizing that there are things that you can change and do to make your life from a passive one to an active one, and to take charge of those emotions and feelings and process them instead of lashing them out. Something else you can do is reframe the match, right? If you're big into competitive gaming, what did I learn instead of why do I suck? And this is a tough one, because, like, you know, the initial reaction of, oh man, I suck, I feel bad, like, you know, It's a very, very natural one to feel. And instead it's like, well, you know, those are really good. Those are really good guys, and they obviously know something about either my positioning or the game that I'm not quite understanding. And so, you know, it's like, what do I need to learn from this? You know, you can do VOD reviews to go, and if you really want to learn, you know, do some VOD reviews of what could have gone different. And just kind of just, not only does that help you with like your awareness in the game and learning how to play the game, but it can also help you with your emotions and how you learn and how you regulate those feelings of I suck to, well, you know what, I did really well, but they did slightly better. And what was it? Mechanical? Was it positioning? What was it? You know, what was that? What was it that gave them the edge over my team? And it's tough, right? Because we, like, a lot of the times we're just like, oh, I know how to play the game. It just didn't work out, or like the team didn't work out. And you know, sometimes you don't really need to do the VOD review for learning purposes because you know how to play the game. It's more of those learning purposes of how it made you tilt, right? How it makes you feel when things don't go right. And then you watch, and then you realize, okay, well, we weren't actually playing as a team, or like our team comp wasn't there, or whatever, you know, whatever the issue may be. And you know, that's when you start reviewing VODs, is when you start realizing that, okay, I'm not always the problem. Okay, these guys don't know what they're talking about, or maybe, okay, well, we just didn't have the synergy, or maybe that, you know, if you know, I used to do a lot of VOD review with my friends, and one of the things that we would do is we would, like, and this is for Overwatch has a play the game system where, you know, you get to play the game, and then it's a highlight, and everyone gets one. And back in the day when I used to play Overwatch 1 with my friends, all of us, we would record our highlights for the day. We'd play like for 6 hours, 8 hours, something like that, a long time. And we would record our highlights from the day, and we would share them with each other. And like, it's important to get the feel-good moments in there as well, but you can also learn from your highlights. You can also learn, like, different positioning. You can learn how things like worked out better for somebody than it did for you. Used to tilt very hard in Overwatch because you always think you're bad in games, so if you can do it, anyone can. It can't be as hard as other people you are with yourself. Yeah, that's true. And again, it's more of when you start understanding why, right? Why the frustration sits in. It becomes easier to manage. It becomes more of like, okay, yeah, I know what's gonna trigger me. I know that my team isn't always gonna play optimally, right? Because that's just team games. You're never gonna play optimally 100% of the time. You can work on it, yeah. And it's just, instead of saying I suck, it's, let me look at the VOD to what can I learn from this? What can I learn from, like, you know, the enemy team switches to your character that you're playing to try and you know, get a one up on you. And it's like, if they are, it's like, well, how, it's like you learn how to play, like, you learn how they play too, right? You learn how the enemy plays your character. And you're like, well, damn, how do they do so well? And then you realize, like, oh, well, when they switched to this character, nobody was focusing them. And so then it's like, okay, well, now you need to know, well, like, you know, if you need to switch characters, or for next time, if you're playing with your team, and be like, guys, look, last time we were playing, they switched to this one character, and they just kept on diving us over and over and over again. If they switch to this character, let's be on the lookout. And just know that they're gonna be here, and to try and cause havoc in the back line, or someplace that's off to the side or something, you know, like something. Again, that goes into the synergy of it all, and like, if you want to win versus having fun, right? If you want to win, if you and your group literally want to win And it's not even all the time. It's just like if you're in a loss streak or whatever. I'm sorry, or whatever. It's just like take that time to work with your team to establish what the issues are. And this goes into like criticism versus like telling people how to play the game, because you never want to tell somebody how to play the game, right? And it's okay to give it's okay to give advice and good criticism when somebody asks for it, or like, you know, if you notice something that's it's just not working and they're struggling, right, and they want some help, then you give them advice, right? I know it sucks because sometimes you just want to play as your group and your group has different levels of experience, and it's difficult to do that, and it can be very frustrating when you know your team doesn't see the game exactly the same way, and the plays that you're making are at a different level than the level that you're at currently with your team. And again, that goes into the synergy of the team and learning how what each other needs to thrive in that segment or in that match. And it's not easy, right? It's never easy. Like getting a group of people just to play games together is a difficult task to do because we all have busy lives and we all have things going on, and it's just like managing to get 4 other people to play a game is tough. And when you finally do so, like the games just go awful, and you're just like, oh, why are we even like, why is this even going? And sometimes, you know, it's just it doesn't live up to the expectations that you have in your head. And that's another thing that you can work on, right? Is managing those expectations of what you have versus the reality of the situation. And when you do, again, like you realize that you don't need to control every aspect of how the game goes, or even if you win or lose, because that doesn't matter. The important part is that you're playing games with your friends, so like, you know, people that you don't normally get to spend time with, or maybe that you do normally get to spend time with and that you love spending time with them, right? And that's what really matters over winning or losing. And sure, it's nice to win, you know, you don't want to be on like a loss streak or anything like that, but that comes from like watching your VODs, like, right? If you want to learn or grow as a team, then y'all have to sit down as a team and learn how to play as a team. And most people don't want to do that because, you know, they just want to play a game to have fun and like just either defeat enemies or like, you know, have fun playing a shooter, an FPS shooter. So, and the last one, some of the tips again is to communicate. Is to communicate or not communicate, right? It goes back into the last tip that we have for today is communication or the lack of it. And it goes back to like, again, if you're feeling like something's off and like you need a moment or two for yourself, communicate that with your team, because they don't know what's going on in your head. The only thing they have is the outcome of expressions, right? If you don't talk to them, then how are they supposed to know what you're going through? If you don't talk to your team, how are you supposed to know what all they're going, like what they're experiencing? If you don't talk to your team, you can't know when somebody's diving in the backline and just wrecking everybody, right? Sure, you can see the kill feed, and that's a form of communication too, but you want to like be preventative and not reactive to that, right? You want to be the one that's defeating the enemies, not the other way around. And when things when things get to that point where it's too much and you can't communicate, then you take some time for yourself. You mute. That's also an option. Just be like, hey, I need a minute, and just mute and like, scream in a pillow, go take a lap, do whatever you need to. Don't communicate with your team for a game or two, right? Calm down, take control of those emotions and feel what you need to before going back into it. And again, with everything that we've been talking about, right, with working on ourselves of managing tilts and managing that frustration, it all pairs together, right? Because then, like, you take a minute to mute yourself, you take a minute to scream into your pillow, you take a minute to display that anger in a healthy way, and you don't resort to bullying, and you don't resort to like just making other players feel bad. Because it's just a game at the end of the day. And we're not, like, even if we were professional players, that doesn't give us the right to be a bully, right? It doesn't matter how much or how knowledgeable we are of any game. It doesn't give us the right to be a bully to other people. And sure, there's a difference between competitive shit talking and bullying, or just, but again, and there's nuances to it. But yeah, you don't need to be a bully to know that you won the game, to know that you are better than other people at a game. Like, you don't need to be a bully for that. Your actions will already speak for itself in the game. And like, when you start adding to it, a lot of it is just a cry for how your personal environment is handling you while you play a game. And we all have a lot of difficulties in our lives. Some are going through way more than others at the moment, and it's we have to take that into consideration too, because yes, things are bad, and like they may not be the best in our lives, but that doesn't mean we can take it out on other people, right? That means we have to learn how to work on ourselves to process what's going on in our life, to process like how we can manage our day-to-day without letting it go in outbursts on people online. And that's an easy way of doing it, right? Because you're just like, oh, just that instant release of feelings can feel really well, but it's not good for you. It's not good for you, because you don't learn how to process anything. You just learn how to lash out those feelings, and it's not good for the people that you're lashing it out on, because they're humans too, and they're just people who are like you, and some of them are jerks, and some of them are dicks, and you can stand up for yourself, sure, but you don't need to release those feelings to other people. They can be just who you are, and like, understand that there's you are upset, and that you are frustrated, and there are things that you can work on to manage those, and not release those feelings to other people. But I think that's it for this episode, right? We yapped for, it's about almost 2 hours and 45 minutes, right? We did pretty good. We made it to the end. If there's anything else that you guys would like to talk about, you're more than welcome to join our Discord. There we go. We feel free to stop by and say hey. We're gonna put this episode up on YouTube whenever we finish it. Whenever we finish editing it. I think the recording should be pretty good to help us get that all figured out. And yeah, that's it. I think that's gonna be it for today. Thank you guys so much for stopping on by, for sharing your stories, for being active with me as we go and talk about our feelings and tilts and frustration and gaming, and how we as people can learn how to grow and continue to learn how to manage our emotions and increase our emotional intelligence, and what it means to not express to process our emotions versus lashing them out. And as we keep going and going deeper into the series, we'll tackle different subjects and all that good stuff. But yeah, that's it for today. Thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you guys so much for being a part of this. I really appreciate it. Our next topic, let me see, let me get the title for our next topic here. The next topic for our next stream is the power of gaming, friendships, and community. All right, so we're going to be talking more about gaming friendships and community next time, and then how, you know, gaming can help us from being alone to finding the most wonderful people on the internet that help and get us and like make us feel a part of a belonging somewhere. So thank you again so much, and we'll get the time out for that soon. We'll get the flyer. It's going to be next week. It's going to be at 6 p.m. probably, and I think we might do it on Friday again. But depending on the co-hosts, I have to talk to them and see what works for them. But yeah, thank you again so much. We're gonna end the episode here. For those watching the episode on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. Appreciate it. Appreciate your support. And yeah, we'll catch y'all next time. Bye.